Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Tammy Dorr, President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership and co-founder of Denver Startup Week. I'm so excited to bring all of these dreamers and visionaries together. Our country was built on capitalism, entrepreneurs drive that, and we could all use a little bit of dreaming right now. We're able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our sponsors. Join me in thanking our 2020 Denver Startup Week sponsors. Our title sponsors, Downtown Denver Partnership, JP Morgan Chase, Prologis, and Zero. Our track sponsors who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible. Battery 621 and the Public Works, Capital One Cafe, Colorado Lending Source, Friday Health, Quizlet, Exactly, Zayo, and Zestful. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement of this week to you. Thank you to Wix, Kenzen, MAPR Agency, Obsidian HR, Kickstart Fund, Promontory Mortgage, Molson Coors, and Comcast. And finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors. They're all listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our virtual Denver Startup Week. And don't forget, use hashtag DenStartupWeek to share your experience and moments of inspiration on social media.
Hello, I'm Sal Gentili, CEO of Friday Health Plans, and we're proud to sponsor the growth track this year at Denver Startup Week. We're a company that just entered a rapid growth phase, so we felt it was particularly appropriate. When my business partner and I started Friday Health Plans 5 years ago, we knew we wanted to create a company that catered to people who bought their own health insurance. The Affordable Care Act was just getting going, and we saw an opportunity to serve a brand new market of health insurance consumers. Independent consultants, startup groups, gig workers, service industry workers, designers, creators, and other independent professionals, like many of you here today. We knew that if we built a health plan that was simple to buy, easy to use, had great customer service, and most of all was affordable, we could compete against the big insurance plans who only focus on serving big companies. After spending 5 years getting into the Colorado market and completing a successful proof of concept, we successfully closed a $50 million round of growth funding earlier this year. We're now about to expand to 3 additional states later this year, hire more than 400 employees to support our growth, and eventually be in more than 10 states by 2025. I wish each of you good luck in your startup and growth pursuits. And as you think about your upcoming health insurance needs, I hope you consider fellow growing startup Friday Health Plans. Open enrollment starts November 1st. Check us out at FridayHealthPlans.com.
All righty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. My name is Ryan Margolis. I'm one of the co-chairs of the product track, helping out on the growth track for this one. I'm also a member of the organizing committee as well. Before we get started, a huge thank you for joining us. This is the first ever virtual Denver Startup Week. As Tammy noted, super cool to have you all be a part of it. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we're all more powerful when we come together as a community to share ideas and help each other. And this year we're doing it all virtually, which is different than in years past. We're making it work. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, sexual orientation, or the combination of any of those. There is something for everyone at Denver Startup Week. Thank you again for being a part of it. And also thanks again to our sponsors. They're the reason why everything is free. Denver Startup Week is the largest free startup-focused event in the world. How cool is that? So shout out to our sponsors. Thank you for helping us make it happen. This session, we're talking about data analytics, people, process, tools, BI, and COVID-19. I'll turn it over to Dalton to get everything started. Looking forward to the session.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Plant Moran is proud to sponsor Denver Startup Week, second year running. I love the community that has been built here with Denver Startup Week, with the pursuit of and being very intentional in providing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So all attendees can connect, learn, and grow regardless of gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, sexual orientation, and the combination of those identities. We want to help you get as much out of this presentation as possible. So please add any questions you have during the presentation in the chat. We have some dedicated time on the back end of this presentation for those. Please also feel free to reach out to any of us afterwards. Our contact info will be provided towards the end. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Tim Deskin to kick this presentation off on data analytics.
Thank you, Dalton. Mark, if you can move to the agenda slide. As Dalton alluded to, we are talking everything data here today, folks. So here's just a brief overview of our agenda. We'll give you a little background on who we are and the roles we play here at Plant Moran. We'll give you a little background on our company as well. We're going to talk a lot about analytics. What is analytics and how do we define that? How does the market define it? But what we see consistently in our customer base is that folks really are attracted to technology, and technology is a component to it, but we're going to talk about some other critical pieces around the people and the process, and the governing of that data as well is just as critical as the tools. We're going to walk through some practical demonstrations of some tools that are out there, and there's lots of them. And we're going to tie it into, a hot topic that we're all have been exposed to over the last 6 months, and that's COVID-19. So, and then open it up to questions and answers at the end. So that's our agenda. We will kick it off with a little background on ourselves. So my name is Tim Deskin. I'm one of the partners here at Plant Moran. I'm really excited about and love being a part of Denver Startup. I feel like I have some synergy with many of you in the crowd here that are viewing this presentation and attending Denver Startup. 15 years ago, a business partner and I started a small little boutique data analytics firm here in Denver. And 7 years ago, we were acquired by a company called EKS&H. You may have heard of EKS&H. Had been around in Denver for 45 years. And then 2 years ago, this month, as a matter of fact, EKS&H merged with Plant Moran. And we're based out of Detroit, but we still have our big Denver office here in town. I'll give you some more background on the firm, but I'm primarily focused on business development, marketing, and really helping clients find the value in their data analytics processes. So that's me. I'll turn it over to you, Stephanie.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Stephanie Henry here. I'm glad to be back. Tim and I were so blessed to be with all of you last year. And so it's unfortunate that we're not standing in front of you, but we do appreciate the time to come back and chat with you again. So I have 18 years of experience in data analytics, and I absolutely love my job because I get to spend time with clients, helping them implement and grow their data analytics within their organization. So I appreciate the opportunity today and welcome all of you all.
Dalton? I think you're on mute, Dalton.
Thanks. I'm a manager in the financial statement audit practice here at Plant Moran for a variety of industries in the middle market and growth stage startups, and have been coming to Denver Startup Week for about 5 years now.
Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. My name is Mark Richards. I'm also a partner with Plant Moran in our business analytics practice. I like to do cool things with data, and I spend a lot of my time with customers exploring the art of the possible, both in data and visualizations that accompany it.
Thanks, Mark and team. So a little background on Plant Moran. I mentioned that we were, Stephanie and actually all of us on the phone here were part of EKS&H, small accounting, medium-sized accounting firm based in the tech center. Like I said, it had been around 45 years. And there's a lot of consolidation in this accounting space. We're a classic accounting firm under Plant Moran, as was EKS&H with that tax audit and consulting side of the house. So Stephanie and Mark and I and 400 others sit in the management consulting service area. Dalton's in the assurance or audit side of the house, but as a firm, we work very closely together and try to cross-serve our clients with really all the offerings that we can possibly bring them that brings them value. So we Stephanie and Mark and I are in part of the information technology consultancy. If you were to break that down even further, we have a thriving business analytics, data analytics practice, which is what we're going to talk to you about here today. We've been around for 95 years. We're the 10th largest firm in the country now. I think we're over 3,200 total staff worldwide now. We have offices all over the world. So like I said, we're based in the legacy EKS&H office in the tech center. And we are excited to be a part of this conversation here today and this presentation. So hopefully you guys see a lot of value. Data is a hot topic. And as I mentioned, we're coming out of that startup space from my former company. We really get excited about the value that data can bring. So hopefully you see that here today. Next slide, Mark. And as I mentioned in the agenda kickoff, we really see a lot of prospects and clients thinking that technology is the answer to everything, and it's a component to it. So we're really going to drill into these 4 or 5 key areas. Everything surrounding data analytics. You have to have the right people in place, and the people on both the consulting side that's helping to assist in the implementation, but also on the client side, and that's going to be the business. And information technology is playing less of a role, we're seeing, for sure, in this space, just because of the ease of use of tools and the need to put a simple to use tool in the hands of the business people to make quick decisions on the spot. And that's a key piece. The processes that we assist our clients to help set up, we're going to talk a lot about that. And then governance is really a very critical role as well. How do you govern the data? How do you make sure that it's locked down, it's protected, it's secured, is it in the cloud, is it on premise? Those kinds of things. We're going to talk a lot about governance. And then the technology, there's lots of tools on the market. We implement a lot of them. And we're gonna hit on some of those, and we're gonna give you a demonstration of a few of them as well, and see how they can address some specific use cases, specifically COVID-19. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie to take us through the next piece of the presentation. Stephanie.
Thank you, Tim. So we're going to assimilate data analytics journey to planning a road trip. So your journey is planned with a starting location and a final destination. The trip will require support, supplies, tools, and skills by those involved. The success of your trip will be based on the planning and your execution. So during our presentation today, we will review the concepts around people, process, tools, and governance to help you prepare for your data analytics journey. So when planning your cross-country journey, you need to think through the people that need to be involved. So this goes beyond those traveling with you. It could mean getting approval from your boss for the time off or arranging for a dog sitter. When planning your data analytics journey, you need to plan for those who will be part of the team. Depending on the size of your company, the people to involve may include a project lead, the one in charge for keeping this effort moving forward. You may have a data lead and a report lead. Those leaders are focused on the area of their specialty, and those leaders will guide and delegate tasks to a data team and a reporting team. And depending on the complexity of your organization, you may have a project sponsor. That is someone dedicated to the success that is a representative from the executive team. And the last group to consider is the people that are benefactors to all of this great work that you are about to do. And those are your data and report consumers. And yes, these consumers may also be people identified to the left, but it could be people outside of these project roles. They could even be your community stakeholders. And keeping all of these roles and responsibility in mind as you plan your data analytics journey is one key to the success. So now that you have thought through the staff to include in your journey, you will want to understand the staff structures. Is your company's jobs descriptions an easy fit into those areas just described? Do you have staff that wear many hats? Is it imperative in the planning process to clearly define roles and responsibility as it aligns to your strategic plan? Beyond understanding who is part of the journey, you also need to understand their skill sets. If you are continuing to use the current data reporting tools, Are there additional skills your team could acquire to increase your return on investment? Another way to think about it is your team skilled enough to maximize and work efficiently within the current structures? If you are beginning to use new tools, are the staff on board with new learning? As you think about these professional development aspects, whether it's expanding their knowledge on current tools or developing new skills, do they have the bandwidth, and are they supported with time and training to do so and continue to complete their regular job duties? When staff wear many hats, data analytics may not be their only job focus. It is important to honor staff's skills, time, and development. Some ideas to help you think through the roles and responsibilities would be just creating a simple visual graphic to show job relationships. You could create a list of names by role, and you could expand that list of roles to include identifying responsibilities and then how these different groups communicate. If you are like me, when you're planning a trip, you want to make a list of what to pack, create an itinerary, and then enter that destination into a navigation app like Waze or MapQuest. Your data analytics journey may include processes such as strategy planning, identifying roles and responsibilities, reviewing data environment, reviewing the reporting environment, improving what you currently have in the data environment or the reporting environment, and then begin to develop those data aspects and develop the reporting solutions. You're going to want to pilot those aspects, the data and reporting, to consumers. Getting their feedback is critical. Then you're going to be ready to launch those data and reporting aspects to your end consumers. And then of course, you're going to want to monitor their usage and get their feedback to make sure that the product you are delivering is meeting the needs as intended. The planning process, your strategy, your roadmap will be successful if you are clear and concise on milestones and timelines. You cannot do it alone. You must have solid, supportive, skilled teams surrounding you. You need to hold each other accountable along the way. Staff need to know how they fit into the plan. They need to know what's in it for them. Everyone must be on board. If you have staff dragging their feet, you must address their issues and create an action plan for resolve. So we're going to pull this visual back up just to serve as a reminder of what your process may look like. So for each of these blocks, we would recommend that you collaboratively work together to develop a playbook to document the plans and decisions that are made. These milestones, these road signs would be just a start of your documentation. In your cross-country journey, you would select a mode of transportation. And so if you select by car, you would have a safety check performed and top off all the fluids before you hit the road. And during that drive, you would check the gauges and stop for fuel as needed. So as you reflect on your current data analytics journey, or in the planning stages of, what tools will you be using and what is your maintenance plan? Will you stay up to date on those software versionings? So the data tools could include something from the very basic for cleanup is in Excel or in Google Sheets, to something more sophisticated like a Tableau Prep or Alteryx or AWS or Informatica. And those reporting tools may include something very basic like Excel or Google Analytics to something more sophisticated like Power BI or ClickView or Tableau. And that maintenance would just be simply those software upgrades to leverage those new features and security patches along the way. There is a concept called data analytics maturity that plays into the tools that organizations leverage. So as your business grows, so do the requirements of your resources, and that being staffing and technology. This usually pairs with the growth and budget for investing into your company. You might be starting up your business and have access to limited resources, or you may be experiencing success and growth. We think it's important to review your data and reporting tools in context to your goals. Sometimes the short-term goals are quick wins using technology you currently have. And it is valuable to think towards your long-term goals and see if those current tools will suffice or will slow you down and prohibit you from attaining your end goal. The technology space is constantly changing with new tools coming into the market and companies investing in improvements of their software. Some ideas for engagement would be to talk to your peers, see what tools they're leveraging, stay engaged with opportunities like Denver Startup Week, or hire a third party to come in and support your data and business analytics journey. The cost of tools is often seen as a blocker, so we encourage you to not only explore the cost of the tool, but the time and the level of effort the tool requires. There is a balance of tool cost compared to the staff's time to learn and then utilize the tool. As you begin to reflect on your current needs and what it will take to get you to that next goal, we suggest creating a list of desired features in your data analytics solution. You will likely have one list that focuses on data and one that focuses on your business intelligence reporting. Here is an example of a matrix we've used with a client that was exploring data integration tools. The rows are different features that were important to the client. The columns are different tools that we discussed. Yes, we removed names. The colors indicated if it was a great fit, as noted in green, some limitations of the tool in yellow, and likely not a fit in red. Do your research and work collaboratively to make the best decision. All right, there's a lot on the screen. So here is an overview of data analytics that we use when working with our clients. So data sources, those are the inputs on the left hand of the screen, are processed through an extract, transform, load process, where data is cleansed, transformed, and then moved into a data repository. And so right now I'm talking about that middle white background. Then the data can then be leveraged within reports and for ad hoc analysis, and that's in the right side on the green. So right now we're going to focus on 12 key areas of data governance that surround this process. So in orange, that middle top area, you set up a process that includes executive oversight, data strategy, defined data architectures, identified data ownership, defined data standards, and a process for communication. Once these processes are identified and defined, it's time to plan for implementation. So now let's move to that bottom, middle, and gray. There are 6 areas of data governance implementation. There's data control, what data and where. There's data movement, how data moves from one system to another. Data operations, how it's transformed and cleansed. Security, who has access and at what level. Data quality, verifying values are stored as expected and ensure required fields have values. Data monitoring, watching for successful processes and ensuring the 5 previous areas are functioning as expected. So let's think about that cross-country journey. Wouldn't you want to ensure that some of your travelers have driver's license to help you for those long hours of driving? Wouldn't you want checkpoints along the way? And wouldn't you want your drivers to follow the rules of the road to get there safely? So when you think about data analytics governance, you must have processes and procedures in place to have trusted, usable data that follows your organization's compliance regulations and follows security protocols. All team members must understand the importance, and the non-negotiables must be set and held to a standard. Just this one time, it's close enough, I'll fix it later, no one will notice mentality will not be accepted. Our recommendations for the next step on this concept is to spend time developing your understanding of governance. Develop a team who can devote developing a depth of knowledge in this area. So Mark will now take us into how we applied these concepts into a real life use case. So Mark, sending it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate it. And the use case that I'm going to talk about is obviously very topical. It's COVID-19. And the thing about this is there's a lot of data out there for it. And it's a lot of data that a lot of people have not seen before. And every organization has to deal with it in some shape or form. And the use case I'm going to talk through is a use case that we've had internally within Plant Moran. So, we do a lot of consultancy, back in what I call the before times. We used to travel a lot and go and visit client sites and spend time on client sites. But now there's a risk element to that. How do you make a decision when a consultant comes up to you and says, can I go visit XY client? And internally, we have a chief risk officer, and what he was doing was going out to the various states' websites each day and finding the COVID-19 statistics, manually pulling them into a spreadsheet, creating a narrative around it, sending out a daily update, and just trying to keep on top of it. So the use case that I'm going to talk about here is automation, and it's a big one. We see this a lot with our clients. People spending way too much time putting data together and not enough time analyzing it. So the tool I'm showing here it's called Alteryx. It's a really nice little tool for basically manipulating data and pulling it from one place to another. And what I did is that I went out to the New York Times website and I grabbed a text file there, a comma-separated file that listed COVID cumulative cases by day, by county within the US. And so I just pulled it onto my canvas here. I'm saying it's a CSV file. And here's the data as it comes in. Now, the tool here doesn't really know anything about it other than it's some data that I've pulled in. I could go in here and say, well, this is a date field, this is a text field, this is a numeric field, but I'm kind of lazy. So I'm just going to pull a little tool here that does it for me. So immediately I can click run and I can see my data coming down here, and I can see that my tool has categorized the information exactly as I need it. And I can take a look here at the data in transit. I'm going to sort it by county. And I can see here Abbeville in South Carolina is the first one that comes up. It's showing cumulative cases per day. So there was one case where it started. Then on 3/25, it jumped by 2. Then we had another one there. And that's kind of okay. But I'm a little bit too detailed on this. So in talking to our customer, our internal customer, our risk officer, he really wanted to get an idea of what it looked like up at the state level. And there were 4 particular states that he wanted to look into. But first of all, this is way too detailed. I need to pull the data up to a different level. And in this tool, I can just grab a little summarize tool and easily do that. So I'm going to take the state and I'm going to roll it up to that state level. I'm also going to roll it up by date. And I'm going to take my cumulative cases and I'm going to take my cumulative deaths as well. And I am going to sum those. Okay. And because I'm a stickler, I like having a capital S on state. I like having a capital D on date. This is really the cumulative cases. This is really the cumulative deaths. And then I'm going to rerun this and see what I end up with. And again, I can take a quick look at any point in this in this workflow. I can click at any point where the data goes in or out of a tool and see exactly what it looks like. But here I've got exactly what I wanted, exactly what I'm looking for. I can see for Alabama here, for instance, I had 6 cumulative cases. Then the next day it jumped to 12, then to 23, to 29, to 39, which is great and all. But really, the KPI that I'm looking for and our risk officer was looking for, what are the new cases every day? Right? So I was like, okay, well, I can automate that. I'm going to grab a little tool here called a multi-row formula. I'm going to pull this in. I'm going to create a new field called new cases. And basically, I'm going to say, well, give me the cumulative cases for today and take away from that the cumulative cases that I had yesterday. Oh, and by the way, I just want to cut the tie at every state. So I just want to do it by state. So now I can click run on this and see what I get. And I've got a brand new field here that says my cumulative cases jump from 6 to 12. That's an increase of 6. 12 to 23. That's an increase of 11. Fantastic. Maybe I don't want to go all the way back in history. I want to take a look at the latest known information for each of the states. No problem. I'm going to pull another little tool here called a sample. And I am going to look at the last row for every state. And click run. and it's going to show me the latest information that I've got. And here it is. So I've got all the different states lined up here, my new cases, my cumulative cases. There's a couple of things that you're going to look at and you're going to say, hey, Mark, why is the latest date that you've got the 4th of May? And the reality is, well, you know, that's the last time I actually downloaded this file. So that's a problem. I don't really want to go in and download it every day. I want to automate that process, and we'll come back to that. But there's another problem here. If I really want to compare across states, I could look at like Alabama and Arizona, and I could say, well, the cumulative cases are about the same. So maybe they're seeing the same rate of infection there. But there's an issue here that I'm not thinking of. And that is, I don't know what the populations of these states are, right? They could be a lot different. So I thought to myself, okay, well, that's not on the New York Times website, but there is another place I can go and grab that information. It's from census.gov, where they have all of this information about populations by state. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with my COVID data. I'm going to put this auto field in here. I'm going to take a look at what data I've got. So I can see here, I have all of these different census population estimates. The most up-to-date one here is 2019. So maybe I want to use that. I can also see I've got all of the states. I also have a few other things in here I'm not really interested in, but I can see here if the state is anything greater than 0, then it is actually a state. So if that's all of the information that I really want, I'm going to put a little filter on here, and I'm going to say, from that information, I only want the information where the state is greater than 0, okay? And notice here, I've got two outputs to this. I've got a true and false tab, and I can click on either one of those. So I basically got rid of these 5 records. So all I should end up with are the states that I'm interested in, right? Okay, I don't really want all of these columns either. So I can take a little select tool here, and it's easier for me to say, I don't really want to see any of these. I want to pull in the name, and I want to pull in the most recent estimate, which is 2019. And instead of name, I want to call it state. And instead of this, I want to call it population. And I'm going to rerun that and see what I've got. All right, so now I have a row for each of the states, and it's showing me the population. All right, here's where the magic happens. I need to bring this back and join these two things together. So what have I got in common between these? Well, everything is rolled up to the state level. So I'm going to use a little join tool. I'm going to attach it this side. I'm going to attach it that side. I'm going to say, you know what? Where the state matches on both sides, that's what I want to bring in. But I don't really want the state name on this side. I've already got it there. I do want the population. So now if I run this again, I can take a look at what I've got. And on my output, I can now see I've got my cumulative cases, I've got my state, I've got my population for each of the states. Now I can compare oranges to oranges, and I can do it by putting a quick little formula in here. And this doesn't exist in the data, but this is kind of called data blending, right? I'm bringing information from 2 different places, and I'm bringing it together to allow me to see something I wouldn't otherwise be able to see. I'm going to create a column called cumulative cases per 100K. And I'm going to make it a decimal in here. And the formula I'm going to use is going to be simply the cumulative cases divided by the population multiplied by 100,000. Okay. And once I'm done with that, I'm actually going to sort the states by that number descending. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to put a rank on it, so I know what ranking they are as of that point in time. And I'm going to call that, I'm going to call that rank. Let's see, let's get rid of this. Bear with me a moment, live television. Going to put the word rank in there, and I'm going to rerun this and see what I've got. All right, so at the end here, I look at the information, and I can see that as of 4th of May 2020, New York had the highest number of cumulative cases per 100K. And we scroll down here, some interesting ones to point out. At that point in time, Colorado was in 17th place, all right? So that is now giving us some extra information that we didn't know before. And like any good cooking show, I've got one that I baked a little bit earlier, and I'm going to walk through some of the issues that we've already pointed out. The first issue being I'm really lazy and I really don't want to go and download this every day. So no problem. I've pulled in, this is one that we're actually using on a daily basis at Plant Moran. And one of the aspects that Stephanie talked about was identifying your audience, right? And we certainly did that with our chief risk officer. I knew exactly what he wanted. What he wanted was a daily report with graphs for the 4 states in question that showed up in his inbox every morning, that he could look at the numbers and then he could put his commentary on it and send it out. As we were walking through and talking through some of those requirements, we also thought, wouldn't it be great if we also had an interactive dashboard that we could share with all the staff so they can do some self-service analytics? And that may look a little bit different from what our risk compliance officer wanted. But to solve the first problem, and you may think that this looks a little bit bare, let me share a trick with you. I actually put these in little containers, and I can actually go in here and expand these and take a look at what I'm doing. What this is doing here, instead of me downloading the file every day, it's going out to the New York Times website, it's downloading the data, and it's formatting it for me in a way that I can use it. Another little feature of these containers, I can have multiple options that I can do with these, and depending on my mood, I may not want to send this to a database. No problem, I'll click on the container and I will disable it. And now when I run this, nothing goes down this path. And that's a nice little feature, but let's say I do want to do that. And I scroll along what I'm doing here. A lot of these things you've already seen me doing, right? You already see me creating these new cases. I'm doing something very similar with these. We also wanted to apply a smoothing algorithm. So we wanted to take an average of the previous 7 days cases. We wanted to do a comparison. What were the new cases today compared to what they were 10 days ago? And then I wanted to send this out to a database and do a couple of other sneaky little things with it. And so that basically is going to feed the dashboard I'm going to show you in a moment. But the other side of this, and again, this is still within the same tool, this is the reporting side. So this is where he wanted to split this out into multiple components of a daily report. And yeah, this looks a little complicated, right? But what I'm doing is that I'm actually parsing out different elements of the report and stitching them all together. So for example, I'm doing a state summary up here. Here I'm pulling out the information for Colorado, Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio. I'm doing certain averages and I'm putting different visualizations together and I'm sending it out to a PDF. And if I click on this, this is what the PDF actually looks like. And I'll jump up to the top and you can see here, these are basically my highlights of the 4 different states as of this point in time, and I've color coded them. And I can see here Colorado is in red. It has 493 cases as of yesterday. This is higher than it was 10 days ago, and it's higher than the 7-day trailing average. Okay. Hi. So here are the 4 different graphs that we're looking at. And again, you can see the daily totals here with the bar chart, and the 7-day average is the line graph that kind of takes that smoothing algorithm and walks it through. We also talked about the average per 100K. And you can see here the new cases, the 7-day average. And here I've actually listed it against the 100K. So this is actually comparing apples to apples. And Colorado really, as you see here, isn't doing too bad when comparing against Michigan, Ohio, and in particular, Illinois. Illinois is pretty high here, although it is coming down from the spike that we saw. I'm a data guy, and I always like to see some of the information behind the pretty pictures. So I felt compelled to put a little chart on the back that actually had some of those numbers. Okay. So what we do with this, we've actually scheduled it to run every morning so that when the New York Times updates its data pull, we go in and scrape that information, we pull it. This is automatically generated, and the information is output in an email. And the email looks a little bit like this. And actually it looks exactly like this. And it has the PDF that you just saw attached to it, and he's good to go. And so that just appears in his inbox every morning. So the other side of this that I hinted about was the actual dashboard. And again, the audience is different for this. This was very geared toward these 4 states. My client was very adamant about exactly what he wanted and where he wanted it, and even down to the kind of colors that he wanted on here. This one is a lot more self-service. So what we did with this, we wanted to say, if a partner or somebody is looking and determining whether they want to travel somewhere, what are some of the things that go into that decision? As you can see, we've split it up into a number of different things. We can look at the new cases per 100K, compare the different states. I can look at the cumulative cases per 100K. If I really want a really weird one, I can look at the daily change and look at see how what the fluctuations look like. But I'm going back to the cumulative cases per 100K. If I hover over any of these states, I can see all of the statistics that run on there. I can actually click on that state and drill down into it. And over on the left-hand side, I can go down into the individual states. And I can say at the cumulative cases, and I'm looking at this, who have had the most cumulative cases in the state of Colorado, and it's Denver County. Obviously, it's also one of the more populous areas, so that kind of makes sense. I can also look down here at my historical trend analysis. So I can change my different time frames, and this will actually rejig itself. I can go back, and really what I'm looking for is the kind of bell curve, right? And if I extend this out, I can see with Colorado, it really had two distinct bell curves. And it peaked here and it dropped for quite a while, then it peaked again, and it's dropping again. So again, when you're looking at analytics doesn't make decisions for you, but it gives you information that allows you to make better decisions. So I can look at this and cut the data different ways that I can to make the best decision for myself. And at the end of the day, I think that's what analytics and data is all about, and that's exactly what it can do for you. So at this point, I am going to hand this back over to Tim to wrap up our presentation. Tim.
Thanks, Mark. Good job. As you walk through that, it just reminded me 15 years ago, back when we were really getting involved in this business data analytics space, just the requirement around writing code and writing, IT intensive reports that just took so long. That was, I think you showed some Alteryx and maybe some Tableau there as well, but notice that Mark didn't write any code per se. He was just dragging and dropping. And it's amazing how these tools have come along. Again, a component to the whole people, process, technology, governance. That technology piece was, it's just incredible how it's changed, and it's continuing to change, as you all know, under artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's only going to get better and easier and more informative. We're seeing a lot of changes in the marketplace, literally year over year. So what we put together here, folks, just as kind of a wrap up, is recommendations of, if anyone's interested in analytics, talk to any consulting firm or any organization that you're working with. And we recommend, just ask for an initial 30-minute call and talk through some of the problems, use cases, issues that you all are dealing with. Everyone has data. Everyone has data that's growing exponentially, and everyone has data problems, including us. And we're a data company. So it is something that we just see and helps our clients significantly, is just a quick 30-minute call. Hey, here's a pain point. Can you help us figure it out? Talk to your consulting firms or organizations that you're working with. Strategize with new ideas and use cases, as I mentioned, with your data. Determine how the tools could fit into your strategy. I love the analogy that Stephanie walked us through around going on a trip and talk through and think through that strategy for your specific organization. Discuss optimization strategies, provide, sample data sets that you could, that's something that a lot of clients we encourage to do, like, hey, don't take our word for it. Give us a sample of your data and let's throw it into some of these tools and see what the feedback could look like. Everyone's data is different and it can look different and present it in different ways. So we always use the analogy, you'd never buy a car without test driving it first. Test drive some of these tools and the data and the processes surrounding it. And then just ideally put together a proof of concept. Again, identifying those use cases, pain points that you're dealing with. Test drive it. The software is essentially what we see. And it's very doable in this marketplace with these easy to use tools, and working with organizations around the people and the process and the governance. And it just proves to be effective. It's low risk. We always recommend, I should probably add another bullet point here, start small. there is no need in a data analytics space to do the, quote unquote, big bang theory where you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and you're flicking a switch 6-8 months down the road and, seeing what the results are. Mark just went through that. How long did that take you to put together for the risk officer market here at Plant Moran? When it was all from the time you scoped it to the time you.
Yeah, the workflow that I did that created that PDF, that took me about 2 hours one evening.
Yeah. So it's easy. It sounds easy. You got to have someone smart like Mark and Stephanie for sure. But these tools make it easy, folks, and it's really imperative, in our opinion, to just test drive it, do those proof of concepts and use cases. So, with that, Dalton, I think I'm going to turn it back to you. See if there's any questions, or encourage you to speak. Ask your questions in the chat field of the Zoom session here. And Dalton, if you could field those, if any come up.
Yep, there's one comment, just that another Dalton, without a U, said, I would have loved to have this software. I've been doing the same thing for the last 6 months, just pulling data into Excel sheets from each state on my own time. Yeah, some of these platforms do have quite a bit of cost into it, but if you are finding yourself spending all that time, you got to calculate, well, what's your time worth, right? So if you find yourself doing a certain task over and over, 20 hours a week, it might be worth the investment.
Yeah, and that's a good point, especially around Excel. And Excel is a technology that is never going away. It's an analytics technology for sure. We're at Denver Startup Week. We still use Excel every day within Plant Moran, and we know all these tools. So, and Stephanie, I recall last year when we were presenting a different version of data analytics to Denver Startup. A lot of those questions came from the crowd around trying to leverage Excel, and that's perfectly fine, and it's a great starting point. So don't lose sight of that, folks, as you're looking at your vision of data and analytics. Excel is a component and should be a component to some of those processes.
Yeah, and don't lose sight of the fact here that I didn't show you an example of this, but I do have several of these workflows that actually output directly to Excel, and it's the differentiation there for spending hours in Excel putting the data in a place you can use it versus pushing a button and spending the rest of the time analyzing it within Excel or your tool of choice.
Yeah, and to both of your points, when we're working with clients, we're kind of leaning in and listening for those pain points of, there's this process I do every day or every week, and I have to manipulate, and then I have to create a report and send it to my supervisor. And those are the things if you're sitting in your chair thinking about, and it resonates with you, the time it takes to do those, what is that time worth and what are you missing out on? So you're preparing that data, but if it was in a more automated process for you, could you then actually, use your background and your knowledge and your passion for the industry that you're in to really make decisions and to move forward? So instead of just spending your time with the data, can you then use that 1 to 2 hours a week to dive into new learning, to expand your thinking, to really push your organization forward? What could you do in those 2 hours to really take you to the next level? And so then that becomes that kind of cost benefit conversation that, I alluded to earlier. And it's just something you really have to think about. And at what point does it make sense for you to spend the money just to kind of move you to that next level?
Great. Well, anything else, Dalton, coming across the wire?
Not right now. So we can probably close this out a little early, unless there's any final comments from the team.
I'd just like to thank everyone for attending. Sorry we couldn't be there live. It is a different time, and we're seeing more and more of this. We do a lot of presentations throughout the country, and this is I hate the term the new normal, but I appreciate everyone's time. And if you have any questions or need any follow-up, you have our contact information here. But everyone have a great rest of the week. Stay safe and healthy, and appreciate your attendance. Take care.